I'm going to do my hello. I actually always do this and I say, hello, I'm Bob Jolly, director of the St Johnsbury Athenaeum. And it's actually written down here just in case I get totally tongue-tied and I can't even remember my own name. But I am thrilled to welcome Shanta Lee Gander here this evening. It is a real treat to have her. And I'm going to introduce her formally in a bit, just in a minute, and read a long bio, because if you know her, you know even more than what I'm going to read. But if you don't know what she's done, you will be amazed at the breadth of her activities. I just want to repeat for everybody who's here, looks like everybody's audio is on. This event is being recorded, so if you don't want to be part of the recording, you can turn off your own camera. Again, please keep your mic muted until we go to live questions after the reading. So let me introduce Shanta Lee Gander. Shanta Lee Gander is an artist who works in different mediums as a photographer, writer across genres, and as a public intellectual whose work has been widely featured. Her major exhibition, Dark Goddess, an explanation of the sacred feminine, is currently on view at the Fleming Museum of Art, and this is here in Burlington. And it started off as an initial inquiry, an initial idea and inquiry: who or what is the goddess when she is allowed to misbehave? Who is the goddess when she is allowed to expand beyond bearer of life, nurturer, and all of the other boxes that we confine women to within our society? Dark Goddess is a mix of ethnography, cultural anthropology, and exploration of the sacred feminine, and a co-creation with each of the individuals featured. Shanta Lee writes that beginning to share the work through exhibition has helped her to sharpen her sense of the purpose of exhibitions in general. She says, bringing Dark Goddess to others has been an ongoing inquiry and invitation outside of my comfort zone. She is the author of GHETTOCLAUSTROPHOBIA, Dreamin of Mama While Trying to Speak in Woke Tongues, named the 2022 finalist for the Vermont Book Awards, winner of the 2020 Diode Press Full-Length Book Prize, with an honorable mention from the Sheila Margaret Moughton Prize, and reviews featured in the Poetry Foundation's Harriet Books, 7 Days, the Kenyon Review, and the Adroit Journal. Her forthcoming collection, Black Metamorphoses, Etruscan Press 2023, is what Shanta Lee describes as a 2,000-year-old phone line open to Ovid, as well as an interrogation of the Greek mythos while creating her own new language in this work. Her contributing work on several investigative journalism pieces for the Commons received a number of New England Newspaper and Press Association awards. She is the 2020 recipient of the Arthur Williams Award for Meritorious Service to the Arts, and she is the 2020 gubernatorial appointee to the Vermont Humanities Board of Directors. Shanta Lee gives lectures on the life of Lucy Terry Prince. She was circa 1730, 1821, considered the first known African-American poet in English literature, as a member of the Vermont and New Hampshire Humanities Speakers Bureaus. Collaboration and collaborating is a part of Shanta Lee's creative practice, and projects have included co-curating the I Am exhibition with the Vermont Arts Council, along with her work on the statewide Create VT, a strategic plan geared towards the creative sector. Among her current work includes acting as one of the advisors for Jay Craven's film Lost Nation, which will illustrate how the Prince family and Ethan Allen took different paths towards the American dream. That should be a fantastic thing to see. In addition to teaching media studies at the Putney School, she is a Vermont radio producer and reporter, and a regular contributor to Art New England and Ms. Magazine. She is she has an MFA in creative nonfiction and poetry at the Vermont College of Fine Arts. She has an MBA from the University of Hartford and an undergraduate degree in women, gender, and sexuality from Trinity College. To learn more about her visual art and written work, visit shantaleegander.com, all one word. Those are some of the things she's doing. The Athenaeum has an exhibit on right now, put together by the Inclusive Arts Vermont organization, and Shanta Lee was a jurist for that exhibit as well. So this is probably, I don't know, half of what she's doing. Anyway, here is Shanta Lee Gander. Thank you, Shanta Lee, for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. So one of the things that's so important, I'll be reading from Ghetto-Claustrophobia. One of the things that's was so instrumental in putting this book together was grounding the reader on how to read it, especially because there is a main word, the word ghetto, in it that has different meanings, different layers. And I wanted to kind of break open the meaning and go beyond what it means for a specific group of people or in terms of race. And so this was my way of kind of introducing the reader to, this is how I want you to read my work and be expansive about what that term is. So I'll start with the title poem. Ghetto claustrophobia. Whether place, people, state of mind, you be locked in until you don't want to be. Noun, people. Ghetto claustrophobics, also ghetto claustrophobes, ghetto claustrophobians. 1. Any group of people. They evade capture. They evade description. 2. Identity. Perceived or imagined. Noun. A place. Ghetto claustrophobia. 1. Fashioned for but not by. Think characters, think props. 2. Big, so big, expansive, endless. 3. Any place. The place with the writing matching mowers. That place where cliques of moms go by the same name. 4. Hotel room, apartment, house, dreamscape, cityscape, rulescape, selfscape. Could be another country. Could be the human body as container, as shell, as place. From block to brick to burb to brownstone to any place, as in so many, as in endless. 5. These places, real and imagined, just like the people, they evade capture. Adjective. State of mind, states of being. Only an ailment if you want it to be. 1. Black girlhood in America. 2. Nightmares. 3. Stages of human development. The place in another universe teaching us our lost adolescence in a new alphabet. A. You brought back the meaning of place as kin, as that gathering, as that where we may not look alike, but we know each other. B. Your kitchen still holds the girl with the arachna etched upon her right shoulder. She stands between the old soapstone, him and me. I wanted to be her for his gaze, for the way he says with his fingertips, I like your ink. C. Your fireplace be big, as in real big, as in big enough for bodies, as in, well, damn, it heats this room for dancing. D. It heats the corner where the lovers hide. It warms the girl who asks for peacock feathers in the dark. It be big enough for the raised right here hog. E. Somewhere between one of the kitchens, one of the living rooms, the dance is called. The trying too hard, somewhat sexy dancing girls are putting on some kind of show with the feather boas. But that music, always jumping, always jive, always live, no CDs, no iTunes. F. For those who want to be seen but watch, or those who want to watch and maybe be seen, you have ways, you have spaces. G. That bump out in your kitchen snuggles that bay window, catches the cacophony of voices, holds the wraiths of past chat, present chat, and that talk of next, alongside the ghost of the girl with the stranger wearing her favorite boots. Remember them? She laid like a child at nap time, her face still there, buried in his chest as the first hello. H. Your kitchen table keeps vigil over what was, will be, and the personals. This one on the lip of an envelope saying single With land, with job, no kids, children and wife? Yeah, sure, I'll try it. Preferably someone who owns a liquor store. This one answered for the way it was funny. I. And another part of you, the damn near room size loom. And another, a singing Madonna acoustic just because. In the yard, the girl who climbs the tree for the first time in ever. Years from now, she'll say, those hippies were fairies in an enchanted garden. They made me do it. J. Your hall holds endless food. The smoke from the bonfire sticks to nose hairs, hangs on beams like the curing raised right here hog dangles, hangs like the words of the host. This cucumber smells like it came from the store. K. You spun giddy listening to the chant of can't. I can't do E, I can't do acid, I can't with shrooms. Pot brownie? Your gazes always spoke a magic turn in no to yes, or something like, okay, just small piece. L. You become anybody's anything, teaching taste like new positions for the tongue, training the hands of naysayers saying, girl, you don't cut a raised right here hog fresh from fire. Do like this with your fingers. M. You brought back the obsolete meaning of kindred, as in, we've been doing this before the universe knew about any of you. And brought it back like it never went missing, like the way your body be known solace, elixir for the lonely, looked a lot like proximity turned crush, a lot like the way a Gandalf doppelganger you introduced me to did it for me. No joke. Oh, I keep coming back, practicing this linguistics, a lot like disappearing into and out of him, into holding patterns of detachment, into, I could just keep coming back and doing this. P, if you go, there are rules. Rules for those who never been. 1, learn about it through Mel, as in the Snell kind. 2, learn about it through those who've been there, the cashier at the bakery, the lawyer, the girl with the arachnid tattoo etched on left shoulder walking down the street. They all lean in and ask, are you going? 3, accept, though you don't know how you'll get there or how you'll get back. 4, go by way of a housemate's car, pay for gas. Go by way of a stolen, but not really stolen truck. Your friend won't call the police. Go by the way of a lover looking for his next fuck kind of lover. Go by way of the lover who wasn't really a lover. Go by any way you want, just get there. 5, once there, choose your room. Once there, put your stuff on the bed, put taken on the door. 6, do this and still run into the fools found naked in your room. 7, wake up to Dick Francis holding the window open and the hillbilly gentleman you've been with vanished for his morning coffee. 8, wake up to the fiddle played by the ugly ass dude who tries to charm. 9, wake up with an apology if you were the fool, the naked fool who stole the room from the night before. Q, leaving after the party doesn't end isn't the point. R, get there, give yourself over. S, be in the space, give yourself over. T, go to sleep, wake up to you, or just stay asleep. V, because leaving after the party isn't the point, for here is endless. The mother who brung ya 3. I kind of did like a bit of a triptych with a couple of the poems because it's, ghetto, claustrophobia, dreaming of mama while trying to speak woman in woke tongues. And so as this was coming together, thinking about what the function of each of those poems were. Still wrapping my head around that, even though the book is finished, right? Okay. Mother Who Brung Ya, 3. Some say mama's mama, some kind of medicine woman, or was it she made balm? She made for estranged souls. A tangled tale on mama's side about how all the men lost, eaten, how all the men got no names, well, few. Mama's grandfather went by saying, mama's great grandfather, full name. The women, they be the kind refusing unknowing, as in they got names, as in follow the trail of chicken feet. Follow all the ways we know, seeing with our eyes closed. One of Papa's great-grandmamas, a Cherokee woman. Papa's great-grandpapa, a white man. Both them no name. Names get lost like that, but follow their daughter Betsy. Follow the stories. Her grandchildren tell it. She washed her hair in first rain. On Mama's side, when one of great-grandmamas, Josephine, 16, died, I wanted to know, how do you make dead tongues speak? Initial offering, gratitude. Make space for what you ask, not as stranger as kin. When you ask, be bound by blood. And as for the talk part, the speak. Notice the way sentient cinerariums carry the bones, the way they buzz between breath and letters, the bed of their humming. In that one story, Mama talked about the water breaking. She walked opposite of the hospital the night I came. Those bones, they started to chant. And that other story, that story where they said, true story, actually. My mother started walking backwards from the hospital in true Zoom fashion. Meant to do this before I started. Plug my computer in. Give me a hot second. All right. So this next poem I'm about to read is one of those perfect examples of, and this is not my original idea, of work, creative work having rights, their own rights, where you have one idea for it and the work is saying, no, I don't want to be in that form, or I don't want to do that. So this was inspired by going to very close friend. I've known her since middle school. And actually what was so sweet is she told me she took this poem and read it to her daughter while her husband was fishing. And she was just like, when I first created this poem, I just told her, I said, I hope you don't mind. I wrote this poem about my experience, family gathering. So we go way back. That which can't be measured. Ingredients. 3 bodies bullet-free celebrate in graduation. 3 blood aunties and 2 extended aunties. The 2 that go back before youngins took up residence in a womb, before we knew a now. Add uncles. Add the sizzle on the grill of the meat refusing time. 2 orange, like really orange peppers. 1.5 red peppers, 1.5 green peppers, 1 yellow pepper. Preparation. Cut the celery like this to fit in the hand and the mouth. Save 1 pepper for each of the platters to pour. They will hold the ranch dressing. They will be the centerpiece. Remember color balance. The orange, really orange pepper should balance with celery, green pepper, red pepper. The tomatoes, yes, rinse. Place them between the green, the orange, but not next to the red. The baby carrots, they fit as is, no chopping needed. When we do the fruit salad, be careful. Rinse this chopping board. Don't use the other. Keep the baby melon whole while coring. Take those peeled oranges and chop like this. Add red seedless grapes, slice up 6 oranges, chop the flesh from the melon. Chewable, bite size. Let the juices meld. Add the teenager in the corner who hung out too late with his older cousins. Leave long enough to pour boiling water and light sternos. Leave long enough to allow time to calm the wind. Maybe ask for help. Return. Juices melded. Fill the mini melon with the fruit. Fill the pineapple. A dash of the girl who said she had no friends. One of the aunts, not blood aunts, who says she's the youngest of all 4 of us, saying, these youngins tell me things I don't repeat. Whatever you do, don't forget the table. The table not too long, not too small, in the room with the boiling pots, in the room with the kettle about to scream. Leave enough room for all the chopping. This is important. A board barely big enough for all the juices. Don't forget the bowl and the drainer, almost your age, according to Grandma. Wash the knife in cold water, Grandma says. They keep me knives sharp, she says. You learn something new every day, she chants. 2 grandmas, 1 double deep chocolate, 1 color of coffee, double cream, sprinkled with asks for fruit, garnished with watchful eyes, questions, wisdom, and 1 vanilla bean girl. A specific vanilla bean with the same name as Auntie. She stands beside you along the grandmas, entering and exiting aunties, and Nani's crazy ass lecturing you about having children, saying, you know you can get a surrogate. Don't forget the girl, the one girl who moves Auntie with the same name as Vanilla Bean to declare, Miss Spirit take ya. Last poem. Actually, it happens to be the last poem of the book. Funny backstory about this. So I don't have any chocolate to give you through the screen, but during the launch last year, I partnered with Epsilon Spires, and they commissioned Tavernier Chocolates to create some chocolate called Wake, after the poem Wake, a Spell, so that people ate it. I invited people to eat it as I read the poem, and that was just everything. So if you have a piece of chocolate nearby, go ahead, go for it. Wake, a spell. Body pitched to unseen, don't darn all the holes, leave some for looking. Don't say all that is seen, leave some for those who gonna say, wake. Escaped. Walls and mouths gonna say otherwise. Between wake and sleep, some gonna ask you. Between wake and sleep, some gonna dare you. You are the one who checked in here. No need to tell you. Wake. Yours is a tongue tuned to telling, stitch stories, darn trauma, weave joy. And for the unwritten, the never said, the never seen, raise up. As if dead. Thank you. I would love and welcome any questions.
And I'm going to hang back for just a minute for any of you who are here. If you want to go first, do that. I have some questions, and just saying, I'm going to start then. Shanta, when you describe that the book can go in its own direction, I understood that. And I had a question that is changed a little bit because you said that. You used the word fugue in a couple of the sections, and I had to look that word up to make sure I understand what a fugue is in music, and that means a very different thing in psychiatry.
Yeah.
Looking for yourself, and those two meanings, I think, they're both working in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And I read the book a lot to make sure I could hear the music and see the repetition. And sometimes maybe, there were parts I didn't understand and there were parts I did. And the part about the fruit salad, and I love that section because it's so specific, like generation teaching the next generation, do it this way. Anyway, when you're reading to us and you're pulling out parts of it, how does that feel to you compared to, I read the book through many times and I finally felt like I was floating on the music, but it's really different when you're picking out something to read to us. So how does that relate? How do you feel about that versus the book as a whole?
That's a really good question, because honestly, it's one of those things that I almost feel like I'm working different gear shifts at the same time with something like a book, because I want the pieces to stand on their own.
Yeah.
And so like if it is published somewhere, that it could stand on its own, and at the same time it could be a part of a whole. It's a very tricky thing. I never wanted to write to a thing. I never wanted to say this is the project and then write to just the project, but also pay attention to the detail. I actually just talked to a class about this, about how do you navigate and balance between paying attention to craft and what each piece is saying, and then turning that brain off to then put another brain on to say, how does it work as a whole? And so I would honestly say I've gone in the process, I went back and forth. In readings, there's not necessarily a formula I follow. And it does feel like a lot of parts are being left out. Like, so just now, as I was wrapping up, I thought, oh, the interlude section, which, I have belly dance off and on. I've performed belly dance, and I think of Paige's stage. And so that was something where the eye gets a break and enters this state, almost like sleep wake state, dreaming state. And so it feels interesting to leave that out. I've often tried to include that, but there's no formula. There's some poems that I'm like, oh, I'll avoid that one. Not even avoid, but it's like that one, maybe give that one a break. There are probably several poems in this that I've not yet read aloud.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer your question?
It does. And I'm always going to leave a little bit of silence after I finish or Shanta does it, because if somebody wants to jump in. And another thing, it's nice not to chase away the feeling of the reading right away. I love hearing you talk. I've said that to you. And I'm all about more conversation, and yet it's also nice to sort of sit with the feeling for a minute, because we don't, speaking for myself, I don't do that often enough. So, and when somebody else wants to jump in, please do. I tracked in one section of the book the word braille 4 times, and that's an unusual word because it has this, to me, this very specific meaning of raised, I call it print, but the raised surface of that kind of reading. What did that mean to you? Just using that word that much, it must have been something very specific because it's repeated.
Yeah, braille. I often think of the way that we either communicate or sense things through other senses that go beyond language. And so our fingertips, so I think about, for people who do read braille, sight impaired or blind, how that's a language. But I've often thought of how do surfaces or our skin become a kind of braille to our fingertips. We touch things or we feel things, and those things turn into language in a way, at least in my opinion. And so I like the word. I do like the word, and I like its potential for what it could mean in a metaphorical way.
I'm going to my copy of the book because I put some notes in here and I want to try to remember to ask some things. This is just more of a comment in the poem. the mother who brung you two, Mama Grand,
Yeah.
there's the repetition of facing forward, we face forward.
Mhm.
This time I sit facing forward. It's just, and then I sit facing forward as the poem moves through its different parts. And
Mhm.
throughout this book, there are repetitions of phrases. There are a couple of poems that have a back and forth, a question and an answer. I loved all that stuff. And it took me a long time to start seeing all of the technique that's in here. Not that I am surprised, but you have to spend some time to notice. And even though, anyway, I had to underline parts in my copy to make sure, all right, did I see that? Did I see Braille 4 times? Yes, I did. I went back and tracked them. I love this in that one poem, the changing meaning of facing forward, because sometimes it means, I thought, you're going forward at the end, but sometimes I felt like it's two people sitting facing forward, but they're not facing each other.
Right.
And all of those ideas are woven in there. And I tried to be a careful reader. And that was another section where I noted what was going on and kind of said, wow, look at that. That's happening. And in the poem, Mama and Papa in Daylight,
Mhm.
there's some very sensitive, 2 sections of very sensitive man-son communication. And that kind of stuff always makes me get very emotional, because I had a kind of a fraught relationship with my own father. And there's a very sweet thing here that said, may I read this?
Oh yeah,
Your
absolutely.
words?
Please. Yeah.
Dirt-caked clothes prevent me from seeing all the ways they are family. There's a verse before this. Prevents me from hearing the son say, Dad, this happened today, ... The son is telling the father something. And then later in the poem, there is this section, instead, stories, instead questions. Who were they there for? Big family. Was it someone's birthday? I never had a birthday like that. What did the son say to get that kind of caring? That is a sweet thing. And it didn't have to do anything else but be an observation and saying it out loud. And it's a tender part for men in this book that's a lot about women. And it struck me personally as a real sweet observation. I don't know if that's exactly how it came to you or you witnessed that or something, but
Oh,
it
was.
is.
I know I did. I witnessed it. I was sort of like, there was a part of me feeling really guilty for being classist, for looking and saying like, this is, I see now the surface. And then I pay close attention. Like one of the things I do observe human behavior, I also can tell in a crowded room, if I, focus on a couple of people, I can tell who's got the social anxiety. I can tell I can just look, laser focus. And I was noticing just the way they had this tender moment. And I thought, oh man, like they may have the dirty clothes, so they've got connection down. Like, oh, I wanted that. Like, and I'm sitting in the nail salon and I'm trying to look around for, okay, why is all this family together like this? And of course, on the meta level, why would I be asking that? Oh, that's right. Because in our culture, having family time seems right now an anomaly. And it's sort of like it, or family time, like to see a family on vacation. Of course, you would say, of course, their family, they're on vacation. You wouldn't question that. So of course, the levels of classism where it's just like, well, they've got dirty clothes. Why are they all together? And why are these men in the nail salon, and which sexist? So it's like going all these through these levels of like checking myself to the boards, but also then coming back to myself and thinking, wow, look at that sweet moment where I just sort of was like, almost not totally tearful, but just looking at that thinking, I want some of that. So then I went from judgy in my head, which, most people won't admit to that. So judgy in my head to being jealous, straight up jealous, and thinking, kind of going through the catalog of my memory saying, where can I find a moment like that, of that kind of tender moment with my parents? I can't find it.
And that's clear when you read the whole book.
Mm-hmm.
So it worked emotionally for me, but it worked in the poem because the poem goes to those changes you just described, and it's a marvelous poem that goes from all the things you just said. I'm judging, I'm looking at them for lots of reasons, like, what are you all doing here? And yet, man, it gets back to that was an important thing, and I just witnessed it and I did not miss it. And that says something about those people that I wasn't getting until I opened up to that.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a real thank you from me for that part in there. There's
Yeah.
so much beautiful stuff, and that is a sweet, sweet thing. I want to give anybody else who wants to ask something, if you're hesitant.
They can put it in chat. They can put it in chat if they want.
Yeah, yeah. Because otherwise I'm going to ask a few more questions and you might be sick of hearing me. I'll just show the book while y'all are thinking of more questions. This is part of the, oh, you can't really see it here, but this is the intersection, the kind of interlude where God's thermostat has broken, and literally the layout on the page is completely different from the parts before and after that. And it does give you a visual break from what's going on, and a different way of hearing when you're reading out loud. Oh, this was a question. I know this is intentional.
Yes.
The
redaction.
Yeah. What was going on there? Because I'm almost like, it made my mind flip to like, oh, those military documents that get redacted, or those government things. So they basically say, I'm not going to tell you anything because I'm going to take out all the stuff that matters. And I was reading into it, and I just wanted to hear you talk about that, because they're near the end and there's a couple of poems with those redactions.
I like the idea that language, even as somebody who, I write a lot, I have a lot of manuscripts I'm in between right now, but I also think of language and communication in so many different ways, especially when I teach media studies. I teach it on so many different levels, even through like art as vehicle, things like that. And some things can't be laid out. Some things you can't find the words for. Some things, should be erased. Even like the last poem is hard to read out loud, actually, because unless you see it on the page, which I'll show everybody, kind of looks like that, where it's like they're missing words, there's redactions. Almost say you gotta either insert yourself in it or just give yourself over to an experience where all language isn't going to just be so accessible. The experience may not be accessible, or you have to do some shape shifting and imagining into what that is. Here's some space for you, or maybe your eye rests there to try to figure out what's underneath that block.
Doing it, and I have a loop here, a jeweler's loop. I use it to look at prints, and I actually said, like, all right, I'm going to see if this is printed or actually crossed out. I was that serious. Here's a question in the chat. This is from Quentin. He says, is there a chance we can hear that last poem again? I think he's saying the last one you read. I thought it was great, but I don't have a copy in front of me, and I normally like to read people's work multiple times, so it would be great to hear it again. Thank you so much.
Of course, absolutely. Wake, a spell. Body pitch to unseen. Don't darn all the holes. Leave some for looking. Don't say all that is seen. Leave some for those who gonna say, wake, escaped. Walls and mouths gonna say otherwise. Between wake and sleep, some gonna ask you. Between wake and sleep, some gonna dare you. You are the one who checked in here. No need to tell you, wake. Yours is a tongue tuned to telling. Stitch stories, darn trauma, weave joy. And for the unwritten, the never said, the never seen, raise up as if dead. Yeah, I agree with that. I'm one of those people too, where like if I hear something, I'm a note taker. It's like I have to see, so I also have to see the visual, highly visual. So yeah, thank you for asking me to reread that.
That is amazing. Thank you so much, Quentin says.
Welcome.
Again.
Thank you. Thank you, Quentin.
I want to leave some space for anybody else to ask a question. And I'm going to stop talking in just a second here, but Shanta, would you tell us a little bit about the exhibit you have up? It's a whole nother aspect of your art.
Sure,
and I think it would be
sure.
beautiful. And I'll just mention to people, I think if you can see in the chat, there's a blue highlighted box that has a web address. And that's actually a link to a video of a performance that happened in connection with Shanta's exhibit at the Fleming Museum that was performed a week ago tonight. So you can go there and you can experience it that way, but you really have to go to the exhibit to see both her photographs and then the objects that she has taken from the Fleming collection and interspersed with her own work. There's a video piece there that you have to go to see. But again, I'll just take a minute here of silence till we can hear that poem again in our heads and get that feeling. And then if somebody else wants to type something, this is a chance to do it.
And did you want me to answer that question about the exhibition?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking if anybody wants to type, if you got a question in the chat, you want to do it that way, do that or speak. Because the other thing about this beautiful event is like, we're going to wrap it up shortly because we're going to leave it in its flowering state and not say like, oh man, the bloom is off the rose.
Yeah.
So yeah, Shanta.
I started working on that with the Fleming, I'm going to say late August, September. And the work itself, though, Dark Goddess was an idea that was living in my body for about 7 years. I had this idea where I thought, we over rely on the Greek pantheon, even though, side note, my Black Metamorphoses is a conversation with Ovid. Yes, Greek pantheon, but I would like to think I kind of inverted and twisted it and did some interesting things with it and brought in other myths, African myths, all sorts of things. But I was thinking, well, what are the other worlds pantheons out there, especially if we think about the goddess and especially if we think beyond the whole idea that she is benevolent and maternal and all these things. What about the goddess who actually wrecks or, and some of the mythologies, the goddesses are the ones who slay demons, that not the male gods, like the female gods are needed in certain ways. And so what would that look like? So I kind of thought about it, put it on the shelf. 2020 came, the pandemic started. Someone I'd worked with previously said, oh, let's do a photo shoot. Kayla Manchester. And I said, okay, but I was thinking, how am I going to shoot? But I shoot outside. I can leave my mask on, or like, we're outside. How are you going to do this? And I still wasn't thinking, oh, this is the Dark Goddess. Fast forward, I did the shoot. We did the shoot, got home. Within a few weeks, I was thinking, oh, I think I'm looking at the Dark God. I think this is staring right at me. And I got on the horn and started asking people if they, posting, do they want to participate? Or they, world building, each person taking about an average of a month to world build. I didn't go assigning parts. There was only one instance where I said to two individuals who are related, Kawanda and Alicia, I said, who I've known both of them since middle school. And I said, I'm thinking of the Obeah, the Jamaican, West Indian, usually applied to witchcraft, but it's much deeper than that, much deeper than what the interwebs say. And so I thought, since we were younger, they would speak in Pig Latin together. Their whole language, right in front of a whole bunch of other people, they just break out into their own language. And I was like, God, how cool would it be to, both of you be that, but then like figuring out what was the costuming, where do you want to be outside, like what location. So doing all that, and then thinking about, so the first iteration of it was at the Southern Vermont Art Center. I'm very grateful that, found a place to first do the show last fall. And then, the Fleming saying, oh, let's, we'd like to invite you to work together also, and thinking about their process that they're starting to explore in terms of repatriation, because they have a Benin bronze, which is a part of a bunch of bronzes that were taken from Benin, late 1800s, stolen, not just taken, stolen, ripped, and scattered. And so you have like modern day Nigeria trying to get back those bronzes. And so, the Fleming, along with other cultural spaces in our state, are trying to reckon and think about collections. So in that, I sat with a lot of different items that ranged from so many things, textiles, posters. Well, what did it mean for a sacred feminine? What did that even look like? And also, so it became this multimedia thing. I made a short film. I interviewed, some of the individuals who were in the exhibition. I chose different work to show this time around. So there are tons. I mean, when I say tons, I have tons of pictures, and I'm still growing the work. I'm still adding to it, different dimensions to it. So there's sound, there's sight, there's a short film, which I made a short film, just kind of integrating, like almost like a part one to be continued. And then there's the piece that I chose on purpose in the European gallery, where you have to go into the European gallery and then see all these artifacts and items from their collection. And they, I wanted permission to do their curation tags for their items. So I used the curation label as a way to engage the reader or the audience member to think about gaze. How do we think about gaze? How do we think about how it's trained? How we see, why we see, what we see, how we see certain bodies, how we see certain cultures. And so this was tireless, actually. Like there's like a moment of just like feeling like, doing this dive in so many different levels with the work. And I don't think it's done with me necessarily yet. It's on display until December 9th, closed during the summer, I believe.
It's a fantastic show. I've seen it a couple of times, and it's been changed between an opening viewing and a subsequent one. And going back to the book, you have a poem called Curatorial Tags for the Exhibition, and you're going right back to that to say, these are a way you could put the tags on somebody else's objects, on your own objects.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at what you describe this thing as, you institution, you individual person, and I'm going to put my own curatorial tag on what I see here. And it brings a whole nother sensibility to that. So it's in the book too.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
I don't see any more questions. And the one good thing about Zoom is that nobody is going to buttonhole you after the event is finished. Somebody who is a little reticent to actually ask the question live, but ain't going to let you go until they've had a little one-on-one with you. But this is your last chance for one-on-one, whether it's chat or voice. Okay. Shanta, thank you so much for doing this for us. It was a real joy to have you, a thrill to read this book. The show is fantastic. And check out Shanta's website, shantaleegander.com, because there are links to all kinds of things, other talks she's given, her writings. You're amazing, man. The stuff the realms you're working in. And if you can find, and tell me, Shanta, if it's on your site, the long form interview with the three directors of the museums, the Henry Sheldon, the Fleming, and
Oh, yes. Actually, here, if you give me a second, I'll share it because
that's
I'm in
great.
the middle. Yeah. I'm in the middle of updating my website. So there are lots of things kind of missing. How to, yeah. So here we go. There's part 1, here's part 2. Here we go. There's the Zoom. Here we go. All right. Yeah, I'm in the middle of I've resurrected my SoundCloud, which, I've got all these clips. I do all sorts of things. So
yeah, this is a great long discussion with 3 museum directors about the problems we now understand in our collections, which before we didn't even see certain things as problems. And some of the things that are seen in this video, you're like, holy shit, frankly, we still got this stuff around, but at least we're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about it differently. So just one more, it's an amazing thing because it was a small form version of it on VPR, and people may have heard you doing that. And the long form is really great. It's an extended discussion with 3 Vermont museums about the things they're doing and the way they're looking at their collections. And it's just one more amazing thing you're doing. It's journalism, and it's your poetry and your photography. And man, I'm an admirer.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you everybody for coming. This was a pleasure to read for you all.
Thank you, everybody. Good night. Good night, Shanta.
Good night. Good night.
Bye.